for me, writing and singing have always gone hand in hand. I've always written for the voice, for as early as I was writing really bad songs that I still have. I've kept all the scores because, and I would name them like, this is really embarrassing to admit in public, but I would name these things like these. I took Spanish when I was in middle school and high school. So, but in middle school, when I was taking Spanish, I'd name these things like hermosa, like, muy rápido, like because I thought it just like elevated it. Like it did not elevate it. It did not help the pieces compositionally, but I was always writing for the voice as long as as early as I had started writing. So for me, they have always been kind of linked in.
I was speechless. Usually I have more to say, but you left me that way. I can't thank you enough.
How would you say were your biggest inspirations in your compositional style?
I would say Ravel. I would say Stravinsky, Ned Rorem, Samuel Barber, Debussy, Copeland, Bernstein. And who were your influences as a singer?
As a singer? Oh gosh. I'll have to go chronologically, my chronology. Starting from the youngest age, Linda Ronstadt, Anita Baker, Connie Francis, and was introduced to classical singing and opera when I was in high school. So then I immediately started listening to one of my favorites to this day still is Berganza, Teresa Berganza, and Leontine Price. And as I've gotten older, women who fall into this fishing category, namely Shirley Verrett, Grace Bumbry, those have been my vocal inspirations. And a lot of it had to do not just with vocal technique and talent, but interpretive ability. They're true actresses to me, and that's something that I find incredibly inspiring. And one of the things that has drawn me to art song and working with living composers, there's nothing like being able to collaborate on the theatricality of the words and music being combined.
Set me as a sail upon your
Writing is a very weird experience for me. I love it, but you've had those experiences, because I think we've talked about them, where you go on stage and you don't black out, like you're present, but like you do it and you know it's happening, but there's no, it just leaves your body. And it's interesting because I wrote those pieces, and actually a lot of them I think were pretty close to each other. And I wrote them fairly close to each other. That's what they did. They just kind of showed up and left my body. And so when I go back to listen to them, it's really moving to me, because it's like you look back and you're like, I don't even know how that happened. I'm very clear that I'm a conduit for something, that is bigger than myself. Yes, there's craft. There are things that things that I did to set the text well, to pace the text. There are technical elements, but I think that stuff is just like, to me, the baseline. And then it's having that stuff, and you fill yourself with the inspiration of the poetry, so when it comes time, you write. And there's, much in the same way I try to be as a singer, there is not a judgment of what I'm writing. There's an awareness of it, and it passes through. And the only time I can really reflect on it and how it's going is when it's done and when I hear it. And when I hear it in the initial performance, and when I continue to hear it. And for me, similarly, it resonates on deeper and deeper levels. Like there are things like little motives that even, I would like to say that I thought of everything, but sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that I repeated this little thing here, this little musical thing here. You just kind of realize those things as you go. And so that's what's so mysterious and wonderful to me about the creative process, is that, yes, you have your tool bag, you know how to set text, the opportunities and challenges of the voice. All of that is the baseline, but then you show up and let the text inspire you to something that's really beyond you. And that's how I feel about anything I've written. It's so not of me. It's come through me. If you could talk a little bit more about the differences that you've experienced in working with different writers, as you've said, in different iterations of process. What have been some things that you've really taken from those experiences that maybe were different from the relationship that we've had because of our background as friends?
Well, I'd say the biggest difference is the level of formality. There are occasions where I work with a composer who, it's never super formal, and that we call each other sir and ma'am, and what is written at the end. But there's a certain level of delicacy with making suggestions, not in a change to composition, but perhaps maybe a change to a text setting that doesn't work as well vocally. Because depending on the composer's background, some have a more instrumental background and haven't spent as much time text setting. And that's really important where singing is concerned, making sure that you can just technically negotiate certain words on certain pitches, especially if you want those words to be understood. If it is a more direct storytelling or an atmospheric storytelling, if you have the word the on a high note, it's not always the easiest thing to sing, but it's also a less important word than other words that are maybe more descriptive. So it's just a matter of negotiation and figuring out what's going to work best so you can give the best interpretation, the best musical interpretation and dramatic interpretation of somebody's work. And so much of that has to do with the type of work. Is it chamber music? Is it opera? Is it art song? And they're all very, very different. If it's in a foreign language, has that person ever set that language before? The rules of grammar, and those are hermosa. Remember what you were saying at the very beginning about what you did. Those are the challenges, but they're very rare. Most composers who are writing for the voice have thought about it and are really doing the best they can to set text. It's often when you work with somebody who's not accustomed to writing for voice, where sometimes the the text setting isn't ideal. Sometimes it's also when it's a translation of a piece, finding a translation that is set well. I love being able to have the opportunity to tell somebody else's story or tell the story through my point of view. Maybe that sounds a little arrogant, but it is. I love telling stories. I tell very long ones personally. So when I am given the opportunity to tell the story, especially through art song, I really appreciate it because each song is has its own life and tells its own story. And there are fewer outside influences in a way. With an opera, you might have a stage director, costume designer, lighting designer, the librettist, the source material, the composer, and all of those things combine to make this wonderful, grand story. And with art song, you often only have 4 voices present: the singer, pianist, poet, and composer, and sometimes those are even combined.
Sure.
So it's a little jewel. Each one is just something different to explore, a different story to explore.
And that's the beauty of art, is that we keep going deeper with it. We keep discovering it in deeper and deeper ways. And so we can always come back to it. There's always going to be something that we didn't see the first time that we're going to, because of our personal experience, we're going to see it this time, and that's the joy of returning to material that we've sung before, that we've written, in the past, is experiencing anew.
Audience members also, it's amazing what we learn back from those with whom we share the work. The piece you wrote for my wedding, in the setting of Set Me as a Seal, Many Waters, I always listen to the flowing water in that section that becomes this rushing wave. And I always, every time I heard it from the very beginning, was the rushing wave of overwhelming love and exuberance, and would get me just my heart pounding. And for whatever reason, I'm embarrassed to say there was one aspect of that part of the song that I never heard before until I heard feedback from a pianist who was playing it. And she said, "I love the wedding bells in this section." And that just blew me away, and I felt like a total idiot because I had never heard the wedding bells because I was hearing the onrushing of water and love. And so now I hear it and I'm again just just a mess, because there's a whole new level, a whole new layer. The work that you've done for singers and pianists is really an interwoven tapestry, and where there are instruments playing together as opposed to just an underlying accompaniment to the voice. And so each time I get new feedback on that from whichever pianist I'm working with on those pieces, it gives me something new in the well to draw from.